I was watching, man, just watching from last year's combine to this year's combine, man. It's not, the talent doesn't look like it's talented, from my
Mm-hmm.
perspective. Um, and as we've seen, man, we haven't seen many rookies be that successful or contribute to their team like a number one pick should from this past draft. But I don't know, man. It just looks like the unthinkable is happening to the combine in the NFL draft. It's a shortage of talent leaving college for the NFL draft, as well as enough talent entering the draft
Mm-hmm.
to sustain some success, right? I think I saw this trend, like I said, I saw this trend starting to take place during last year's draft. Only a handful of rookies had a successful campaign in the 2025 NFL season. And Cam Ward, you know, he was on a horrible team and he struggled, right? That was one of the top rookies who was drafted with the number one pick. And he had high expectations, right? But he was on a terrible team and he struggled. He couldn't have any success on the Tennessee Titans. Then we have Jackson Dart, another number one pick. Had a little bit success, but still wasn't that convincing, right? Then we got Shador, man. Shador was in he was in a whole other type of battle, just not just being able to compete for the starting job. He was in a battle of, his last name and other things that didn't have to do with football. Then you have Abdul Carter. It was up and down season, right? Wasn't as effective. He was more of a speed rush guy. He didn't get the job done that well. And everyone's looking forward to their sophomore season. Then you have Ashton Genty, then Dylan Gabriel, Tyler Shuck. All these rookies, they didn't really stamp their rookie season, right? A little bit, they had success. Some players had success here and there. And then, like we predicted, if you don't remember, Dries, we predicted the rookies.
Yeah, I remember.
We predicted. And I think you picked Tyler Warren and I chose Colston Loveland, right?
Yeah.
I chose Colston Loveland. They're both tight ends. Not the sexy position that everyone jumps out at, right? But we chose correctly. Say what needs to be said. We know what we're doing over here. You know what I mean? So we picked those rookies, and they both had impressive rookie campaigns. I think Tyler Warren, he went down with an injury, if I remember correctly, right? Then we had T-Mac.
Right.
I was trying to say it right. Tech McMillan, T-Mac, as well as linebacker for the Cleveland Browns. He led the rookie class in production, right? He had over 150.
Yeah, he was out there balling.
Crazy, you know what I mean? But the production, the lack of players entering the NFL, man, the lack of talent is just all around the place, right? So let's check out this article from the Kansas City Chiefs general manager talking about what he sees in NFL and how they're processing and attacking this draft. And it says, Chief General Manager Brett Veach said now that the NCAA allows players to make money off their names, images, and likeness aren't entering the draft because of the money they can make in college. Veach and the Chiefs already had an version of their draft board set before the deadline for players to enter the draft. A large portion of the Chiefs' top prospects decided to stay in college. When the official decision date of the underclassmen came, I believe we moved over 125 guys off of our board that we had top 75, top 100. So it really impacts, I think, the draft, and they're getting older prospects as you go on. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon, and I think it's something we have to adapt to. Right. So, like I said, man,
that's a lot of people.
That is a huge amount of prospects, that could have potentially entered the draft and not entering the draft no more. So it makes things for coaches and general managers in the NFL draft. It moves things around a lot, man. It's kind of like, process of elimination, if you say, right? Got to go through the process of elimination in these type of drafts, starting from last season. Like he said, when the NCAA allowed players to make money off their name, images, and likeness. And so how do these teams move forward? And now we got Fernando Mendoza. He wasn't at the top of anyone's list before the start of the college football season this past year. Now all of a sudden, he played his way to potentially being the number one pick. Clap it up for Fernando Mendoza, Florida boy.
For sure.
Hey, he did that, man. He transferred from from Cal University to the University of Indiana in one season. Played his tail off, right? And it wasn't the sexy athleticism that we used to seeing, the dual threat quarterback. He was just effective and efficient. He played well for the Indiana Hoosiers, and they won the national championship as a junior. So he coming out as a junior and potentially going to be the number one draft pick, right? The Raiders are on the clock. The Raiders are on the clock. Are they going to take Fernando Mendoza? At least he's played his way in the conversation. I don't see any other opportunities or any other prospects that would be warranted the number one pick. So I don't know.
My question goes.
Go ahead.
No, before we get to Fernando Mendoza, I had a question for you, like for the overall combine process. Like, how do you feel about the combine process? Do you feel like you could find real talent in the combine? Because like for me, from like outside looking in, I feel like the meetings and all that stuff, when you actually sit down and talk with a person, you found out more than the actual on the field things. Because I know some people that could do the drills perfectly fine. They look like the greatest talent, but once you put them on the field in the mix, they like lost. So
yeah, I think it's just a process where you have to have a system, right? When you enter into business, right? And this is the business plan. This is a part of the business plan to figure out a way to evaluate these athletes and get a better look and a better understanding of them. You know what I mean? Of us. And yes, you can figure out some things you may notice or see something you may have not noticed from just watching and evaluating or visiting with a player, going to see them at their school or on campus, right? But at the end of the day, you can't really tell from a combine, from all of these drills, a 40 time, interviews, how well a player is going to play on a football field. So it's just an excuse and a system, like a weeding out process for the NFL to decide basically if they want to bash a player, talk down on a player, blackball a player, whatever you want to call it. But you can go to the NFL combine and you can make your stock go through the roof, like I've seen a linebacker back in the day. His name was Adam. I can't remember say his last name correctly right off the rip, but he was a freak of nature. He tested well, man, at the combine. I mean, he sprinted well. He ran like a 4.3 40 as a free safety. He could bench press, he could jump, but those attributes couldn't translate to the field. So like you're saying, it's just a weeding out process for these businessmen or these these people that's in power, that's a position of power, to make the decisions and just put a lot of ranking on the name. Just have something to say. Because at the end of the day, man, there's only so much you can tell from the combine. But I mean, if you look at it, man, it's a bunch of mostly African-American men, right? Mostly minority men on the field, just being evaluated. It just looks like one big, rich, pick your people type thing. You know what I mean? Don't make me say it. You know what I mean? So,
and they out there measuring muscles, measuring fingertips and arm lengths, and like I like this one right here.
Exactly. I like that one. I like how long his arms is. That one. Tell him to come over here, man, and talk to me, man. So it's that type of process, man. We talk about it, we could talk about it in a negative way. We could talk about it in a positive way. But at the end of the day, it's a blessing, right? It's a blessing for a lot of us athletes coming from where we come from, man. So we're just having fun with the process of the NFL Combine. But some of those drills and the activities they're doing out there really doesn't make any sense, man. It's getting wild out there for sure. But back to Mendoza, man. But what makes me side-eye Mendoza, man, or what makes me side-eye this pick, even though it's probably the best option and only option, if this were last year's draft, scouts and general managers put Fernando Mendoza as the number 3 quarterback prospect behind Cam Ward and Jackson Dart. So it's just putting things in perspective for everyone. If Cam Ward and Jackson Dart was in this draft, Fernando Mendoza wouldn't have been the first pick, right? And if you go back to last year's draft, it was a lot of talking, a lot of rumors going around, and a lot being said about the prospects in that draft. And Cam Ward was the only one that was really warranted the number 1 top 10 overall pick as far as quarterbacks go. Now, if you fast forward to this draft, now you're saying Fernando Mendoza would have been the number 3 pick in last year's draft. Man, I don't know, man. It's getting worse and worse. You see what I'm saying? It's getting worse and worse. It's not getting any better. So now we have this quarterback whisperer, Dan Orlovsky. If y'all haven't heard of him, he's on ESPN. Right? He does a breakdown on quarterbacks. Right? He does a very good job of breaking down play-by-play plays for the quarterbacks that's in the NFL, players that's entering the NFL, entering the NFL draft as well. And he broke down Fernando Mendoza. He went over all of his game film, and he gave a pretty good evaluation of Fernando Mendoza. And he's pretty much telling you the type of quarterback that you're going to get when you draft him. Some may look at it as good. Some may look at it as bad. But we'll talk about it. Let's check it out.
Tweeted out, studying the first 5 games of Mendoza's tape, and it's not what I expected so far.
Yeah.
Explain.
Yeah, so I'm through 8 games now, and through 8 games, you see good, but there's a lot of underwhelming. I think there's a lot when you watch Mendoza's tape through 8 games, not all the way through, and I understand that his season finishes strong, but there's not a ton of big-time throws. There's a lot of clean pockets. There's a ton of RPOs and back shoulder fades, a ton of them, RPOs and back shoulder fades. And then there's moments where you see okay, that first read's not there. He's spooked with his feet, and he becomes a runner unnecessarily. If you take away the RPOs and then those back shoulder fades, there's just not a ton of balls over the middle of the field. Very good decisions. I think that's a superpower is he avoids negative plays. But you're looking at a guy that's saying first pick, and I think through 8 games, Ty Simpson's tape from Alabama through the first 8 games of the season, I think is significantly more impressive than Fernando Mendoza's.
Okay, really quick, he did play for Cal the year before, so maybe taking a few games to get acclimated to Kirk.
And I just haven't watched the back half of the season yet. I just haven't gotten to those.
Okay, so before I go to Lewis here and Stephen A., do you still think he is the clear-cut number 1 overall pick?
I'm not there, and that's through half of the season or so. I'm just not there.
Not there yet as the number 1 pick. Then who else would you pick as the number 1 pick if you're not picking Fernando Mendoza? Just led his team in 1 season to the national championship. He was the Heisman Trophy winner. I don't see anyone else afforded or warranted the number 1 pick if it's not Fernando Mendoza. The best thing I like about Fernando Mendoza, when you look at his play or you evaluate his tape, you look at his stats from the time that he entered the college ranks at the University of Cal, right? He's gotten better and better each year, each season. 2 seasons at the University of Cal, then his last season, which is his 3rd season, his junior season at the University of Indiana. He's gotten better and better. And this season, or this past season, oh, man, 41 touchdowns, and I think it was about 6 interceptions. So he isn't turning the ball over. That's the recipe to winning, not turning the ball over. Now, like Dan Orlovsky said, he's seen a lot, a lot of outside throws, back shoulder fades, not a ton of throws over the middle. Now, when you don't see a ton of throws over the middle, that usually means that the quarterback isn't too comfortable making decisions or figuring out or taking those chances in the middle of the field where it's a lot of clutter, a lot of players running across, and a lot of confusion. But with the right team, the right system, that isn't a problem at all. You know what I mean? But the best attribute is not turning the ball over. That is the best attribute.
Yeah, my thing is no other choice for the Raiders. Like, who else they gonna go with? I mean, they need a quarterback. They knew that's the number one problem right now. So I feel like it's like we have to go with Mendoza because there's no other really. It's not no other really big difference maker in the draft right now for them to be like,
Right.
oh yeah, we want him instead. So it's either like you trade back and you wait to get another quarterback, or you got to make that decision.
Like I said, Ty Simpson. But the other thing is, man, you have Malik Willis, man, and Malik Willis, he's headed for free agency. I think he is the best other option besides going into the draft and taking a chance on quarterbacks in the draft who's not proven, as well as Malik Willis. He's not proven, but he shows some potential. And I think he's one of those players that ended up in the wrong program. That's just a bad team, and wasn't able to show his talents, man. So I don't know. Like you said, what choice does the Oakland Raiders have with Clint Kubiak, the new head coach coming from the Seattle Seahawks? He wants to start off with this team with the new quarterback established. And I don't think you have a choice but to take Fernando Mendoza unless you're going to plan just tank the season. Just plan on taking the season. And you don't see that in NFL. You don't really see people tanking it in the season. So this isn't basketball. You got to go with it. You got to take it and deal with the consequences.
Unless what you said, well, Malik Willis, they end up signing him a free agency and getting somebody else or moving back to get more capital. Like they might can trade that number one spot for 2 number one picks, maybe. I don't know. They make a move like that too.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. But Fernando Mendoza, he doesn't go past the number 2 pick. If the Raiders doesn't take him, the New York Jets definitely will take him with the number 2 pick. So Fernando Mendoza, he's sitting in a very good position right now, and it's guaranteed that he doesn't go past the number 2 pick. Two teams that dreadfully, horribly need a quarterback. Bad, man. Just to make give the fans some hope, right? Give people that are supporting their team and a season ticket holder, give them some hope by drafting somebody or putting the fresh new face at the quarterback position, But last year we seen players not choosing not to throw at the combine, right? We seen Shedeur Sanders choose not to throw at the combine, and he got a lot of slack. Everybody kept the narrative going about his flashiness, his him being unprepared for meetings, things like that, and ultimately him not throwing at the combine turned around and was a bad look for Shedeur Sanders. Why was a bad look for Shedeur Sanders? We don't know. There are tons of people who don't throw at the combine. And Fernando Mendoza is doing what's smart, choosing not to throw at the NFL combine. And he's not throwing there because the environment is under the NFL's control. Now, when you have the Heisman Trophy winner choosing not to throw at the combine, it's acceptable. But when you got Shedeur Sanders, flashy, confident, and intelligent, it's a big deal.
Right.
Why is that, man? Why is that? So we say expert weigh in on Mendoza's decision not to throw at the NFL combine. At the combine, you're throwing to your different receivers. It's a whole different thing, said top prospect Fernando Mendoza. And I want to make sure I give my guys the best chance. I want to throw at pro day with my guys, with my running backs, and with my boys. Yes, Mendoza. But when Shedeur Sanders decided he didn't want to throw at the combine, and he wanted to do what was best for his future, bring attention to his players, his running back, his wide receiver, the critics created a narrative so bad, and ultimately it drove his stock down. If it didn't drive his stock down if it wasn't just from the critics, I think the critics you know, they made head coaches, they made general managers, they made people that was responsible for making these picks feel a certain way. If they wasn't already feeling a certain way, you know what I mean? It's just a lot of attention. People don't like to see players that are flashy and confident, right? Because they feel like they can't control you and you won't listen to them. You basically uncoachable when you're walking around as confident as a guy like Shedeur Sanders. That's the narrative they create. And then when they get to know you, they change it. But until then, if you're not doing things that the way they're used to seeing things being done, the way they want things to be done, they're able to control the narrative on a guy like Shedeur Sanders because he didn't win the Heisman Trophy, because he ended up not being a top 10 draft pick, because they knew that they was going to make him third round, fourth round, fifth round type of prospect, right? So they was able to control those narratives and put those hot takes and leak messages out there about Shedeur Sanders because they knew what the plan was. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man, Fernando Mendoza, he doesn't have to worry about that. He doesn't have to worry about that. He doesn't have to worry about that.
He actually he might start getting praised for not throwing at the combine. Someone look how unselfish he is. He want to put his teammates and put them in a great position. He's a great natural leader. That's why he should be #1 pick. He's going to get praised for it. The same exact thing.
He might end up getting the sponsor for being unselfish, right? Hey, man, this is the most unselfish guy I ever seen, man. He's putting his future in jeopardy and taking a chance on his future by making sure he show his teammates love and bring the exposure to his teammates, because that's the type of player he is. He isn't a selfish guy. It's not about him. He's not an I person. Yeah,
exactly.
You can see it now, man. It's funny out here. But Shedeur, man, Shedeur still gonna do his thing, man, and he's in the battle, man. Look like they're gonna make. I don't know. Shedeur Sanders seem like he's in the battle because there ain't no way you give that job to Deshaun Watson, man.